Hello, for my Friday video today, I am here with my friend Rebecca Gill, who is a financial advisor with DunlapGill, a firm in Fishers, Indiana. And I work with Rebecca on a collaborative practice model. She is a collaboratively trained financial advisor in a collaborative practice. I know I've done videos on this before, but a collaborative practice is a practice where we stay out of court. It's an agreement to stay out of court, and we work with other professionals to work through children's issues and financial issues. So today we're going to talk to Rebecca, and she's going to tell us how a financial advisor, how a financial person works in a collaborative practice.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Janice. Typically, we come in and do a consolidation of all the assets, gather all the information. A lot of times a tax return is a good place to start, and then kind of do a discovery on all the assets, how they're held and how they're titled, and then we develop financial statement, basically as the marital unit, and then we run proposals on how it might look in a division and looking at tax issues, and obviously sometimes there's some future value projections if pensions are involved and that sort of thing, but then we can come down to a couple different ideas on proposing how to divide the assets.
And do you represent just one party or another, or are you neutral?
Yeah, it's technically neutral. However, usually one party is kind of leading the charge and getting that information put together. But as far as my proposals, it's a neutral proposal, but it's not usual that the couple would come to me together. Usually one person is getting me all the information, and then I just present that information back to the attorneys.
How do you ensure that all the information is actually provided to you? And how do you keep, a lot of times, and what I hear from collaborative practice is that if we're staying out of the courtroom, how do we ensure that all of the information is being produced?
That's a great question, and I know that's a concern for so many, and that's one reason why we start with a tax return. So unless they're fraudulently filing taxes, that's a good place to start with discovery. And obviously both parties are asked to fill out, a financial declaration, and you're going to have that no matter which process you choose to go down. And so, I guess if someone feels that there's dishonesty, there may be concern on the collaborative side.
That's an excellent point, that if somebody is dishonest, the collaborative practice is really not going to be a good method for them.
Right.
And then with regard, also during the collaborative practice, do you ever work with individuals, either one side or the other or both, to establish budgets? We talk about this a lot, about how dividing property and dividing expenses, when you're used to a dual income with one home and one expenses. Do you work with people on budgeting and items like that?
Absolutely. It seems like typically the individual who has been maybe in the back seat on the finances is the one that comes to me, because they seem to need that coaching alongside with having the financials presented. But at that point, that's when I would help them establish an individual budget. I'm available for both, but a lot of times it seems like one over the other one. We'll typically need it. Definitely looking at how the new lifestyle is going to be, how they might have to make some changes and adaptations based on the income, and really kind of manage expectations.
The one thing I like about using a financial advisor, not only in my collaborative cases, but also in my general litigation cases, is that there's often two ways to the same yes, like a yes for both sides. And that's because some assets are divided better for one party or another based on the financial needs, the income of the party. Can you address that, or have you noticed that too?
Definitely.
Or sometimes it's
and that goes back to the taxes a lot of times, which is most tax efficient way to split assets. So we take a look at that for sure, with 401ks, IRAs, pensions, and see if there's a more tax efficient way for each party to take their share. So we
Mhm.
do take a look at all of that.
And what about as far as houses? Do you find that one party or the other usually likes to have the house and wants to maintain the home?
It varies. Sometimes they just can't, you know.
Mhm.
Sometimes it just has to be liquidated. But other times they want to try, especially if there's children involved. We'll see that they want to try to keep the home and keep the children in their familiar surroundings. It just really depends on the financial situation and whether it's feasible.
Are you also able to work with the parties if the house does have to be sold in terms of timing for that, and maybe are they going to live close to one another? Are they going to try to maintain the same school district or things like
We
that?
certainly talk through that, and again, it all comes down to expectations. You know, I really think that's a big part of any financial plan is managing expectations, having realistic expectations, and mapping out what's going to make the most sense for your financial future. And so sometimes it's feasible right where they are, and for them both to each have a house nearby. Sometimes it's not feasible. We just have to be realistic with it.
And are people generally accepting of that?
Well, yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge. It's hard for a lot of people to shift their thinking and accept that there needs to be changes. And when you're going through a divorce, obviously there's a lot of emotion there. So they try to keep the same lifestyle even though it's not feasible. So sometimes we have to go through a little bit of a process, and that's where the family counselors can come into and helping with them realizing what makes the most sense. But I would say if they're collaborative, a lot of times they're more willing to look at things in that light. Typically, I mean, that's what they should be if they're coming with that type of attitude that hey, we want to get along and do what's best for everyone.
I had a case many years ago where the financial planner was able to really, it took a series of meetings before finally the moneyed spouse or the spouse that had the income really did see that the other spouse was going to be left with a financial hardship. IRAs and 401ks are great, but to take those out, there's tax implications, and then you're not going to have them for retirement. And so this financial planner was able to work through and get some spousal maintenance until for a longer period of time than necessarily what the statute was able to say. Because, and I don't know if you've seen that when you make reference to, sometimes it just, once you get everything on paper, both spouses kind of their eyes open of what
absolutely.
the financial needs are.
Yes, we find that a lot, that until it's all written down, and whether it's a divorce situation or just people saying, hey, we need, as a couple, need to finally look at our finances, until they actually have it all written down. A lot of times it's kind of like one of those, don't look at it and we won't know, we won't have to worry about it, and then that process, so sometimes it can be a painful process, but it's necessary, and then in the end you end up better on the other side.
That's what I think, is if you can do that during the dissolution, you do end up better on the other side. And that's where I think if you have two good collaboratively trained attorneys, you can get to that yes. Tell us a little bit about where DunlapGill is and what you do on a day-to-day basis with DunlapGill.
We are over off of 141st and 37, so we're right on the edge of Fishers and Noblesville. And we are planning-based investment advisors. We start with a plan, and then we build our investment models after that, where we take on fiduciary responsibility for our clients' assets and manage for their goals. So we're independent, we use LPL Financial, and we're able to build portfolios specific to the goals of the client, so we're not captive by any products.
Great. Thanks for coming this afternoon, Rebecca. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Again, it's Janice Mattingly and Rebecca Gill. And if you have any questions, please give me a call, 317-815-0340, or you can find me at www.carmelfamilylaw.com. Rebecca, what's your website?
It is DunlapGill.com.
Thank you very much.